I had this discussion with some people. I believe we even talked about it on Tuesday Night's Main Event at one time. It was months ago. And we talked about the concept of what an indie is. Right? You hear that term thrown around in a lot of different sectors, especially in entertainment. Indie this, indie that, or independent, comics, indie music, indie movies, filmmaking, all that. But I'd be thinking, like, what exactly does that mean? Because depending on who you talk to, you'd be surprised that what they actually mean isn't even independent in some cases, and it just means not mainstream. And I think that is arguably what most people mean when they hear that, or when they say that. They mean not mainstream, because the size, as an example, of your company does not mean that you're not independent. Right? You can be a pretty big, successful company and be independent, right? And you can, by literal definition, and obviously smaller ones can be independent, but also smaller ones cannot be dependent. Smaller companies, per se, can be attached to parent companies or be getting some sort of mass funding by investors and all that. So I figured it was a great little thought exercise, and I wanted to put that on your mind for people that are viewing this video. What do you think independent is? And I'm going to explain, and I'll define what I think it means. Okay, when I think independence, I think exactly that. I think that your company that is producing whatever content, music, entertainment, whatever it is, the buck stops with the company or person that owns it. Okay, and the vast majority of their business is ran within that operations, again, under their own banner. Okay, that's what I think of independent, right? Is that literally that they are detached from anybody else, right? And the vast majority of everything it is that they do to put out whatever work it is that they are putting out is done within that same group, that same individual, or whoever it may be. So if the company, let's say, owns 100%, let's say that, of what it is that they do and what it is that they produce, and the buck stops with them, whether they succeed or fail. That's what I think as independent. But if you talk to some other folks, because even with, like, the comic industry, I'll say this, you get this term like independent. Really, it just sounds like it means not Marvel or DC. Maybe you could throw some of these other major publishers out there. But I do find it interesting. Me and Chuck Dixon, we talked about this, how, you can make the argument that a lot of the channels, especially the primary channels of how people get comics, is funneled through the same kind of cycle of thing, right? And definitely with the distribution channels, right? And it's like, you can make the argument that they're not necessarily independent when, they're doing the same exact thing, and that the mainstream, let's say, is doing, or going through those proper channels that they control, often the mainstream, sort of in some sort of case. Maybe that's going a little bit, being a little bit much, because maybe, let's say, a person is going through those channels, but at least owns everything it is that they are doing. Right. So that's the way that I see independence. And yeah, maybe there's some little nuance. I'm not the biggest fan of that term, but maybe there is some nuance there. And I would love to know what you guys' thoughts on independence actually is. But that's the way that I see it. You own everything it is you're doing, and it's yours. It's not, hey, it's yours, but your company is 80% owned by some other mega corporation. Like, that's not independent. Even if you are a small company, that's not, to me, that's not independent. And again, when you talk to people, often it just sounds like they mean not mainstream, and it's no real substance to what it is that they're defining, because the term just kind of means whatever it means. But that's how I define it. That's what I think. When I think indie or an independent, that's what I think. What do you think? Alpha Core #1's pre-order is live. Written by the legendary Chuck Dixon and penciled by Joe Bennett. Visit Rippaverse.com to grab a copy and any of the merchandise items. Be sure to also check out the animated trailer for the campaign, which is the latest project from Rippaverse Studios. Y'all be easy.